etymology piece of this, Martin?
Yeah, I did. So that's one of the things that my good old friend Josh brought along, etymology. So he came in, the first thing I was saying, Martin, words, language. It's all in the language. You know, everything's in our language. It's all coded in there. I sort of said, what are you talking about? Yeah, I know, language is, I was like, no, you don't understand. You know, it's in our language. Our words are spelled. And I was like, well, yeah, I know. Words are spelled. It's called spelling. And he says, no, it's literal. It is literal. So I said, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean it's literal? So we went through about a week of me having cognitive dissonance and going, well, really? Like, that sounds a bit crazy, magic, and, but eventually I broke my cognitive dissonance. I got it. The penny dropped. And once we started diving into it together, my, oh my, we just unlocked a whole big Pandora box. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like I was saying, I was hoping you'd be on here with me, we'd present this together, but I'll just give a little flavor, a little taste of some of the things we decoded of this language, this thing we call language. So that's a good way to start, decode, right? You've got D and code, right? So that's two words there. So D means something and code means something, right? You can also declutter, yeah? You can many things. So D is a prefix to something else, right? Another good example is ice, right? We all know what ice is, ICE, right? We have something called the pole ice, right? We have something called just ice. We have something called off ice, right? So you can see pole ice, police, just ice, justice, off ice, office, and we say you are skating on thin ice. That's a saying that we say. So what I'm trying to show you here is that our words are literally magic spells. Literally, right? When you break down all these words, they have a root or core meaning, right? From this thing we call angel language, the root language. And this angel language is branched off things like Sanskrit, which is one of the root core languages, languages like Hebrew, which is another core root language. All these root languages come from an original source language, which we might call the O language. The O represents the whole, right? It's interesting because you've got whole, H-O-L-E. You've got whole, W-H-O-L-E, right? And both sound the same, but they are spelled differently, but they actually mean the same thing. Whole means the whole, the circle, right? The Garden of Eden that we've been talking about is a crater continent. It's a hole at the center of the earth. It's a crater. It's a hole. This is where we get things like Holy Spirit. Spirit from the hole, right? Spirit just basically means essence, right? The essence or energy. So energy from the hole. The hole is the crater at the center. This is Eden, okay? This is where we get words like occult, right? A cult, the root word for where cult comes from is culture. That's where we get the word culture from, cult, right? If you have a culture, that is your cult. Your culture is your cult. The occult is the culture from the O, from the whole, okay? The whole being Eden. So occult knowledge is knowledge from Eden. That's what it means. That's where it roots from. That's where we get that. You get words like Eden. So Eden is den. We all know what a den is. A den is a home, a place of rest, right? So what does E stand for? E stands for ether. So Eden is the ether den. Now, something we discovered while decoding this language, which is where I realized how important this language is Eden is different to the Garden of Eden. Those are two different places. So there are actually two realms at the center. There's the Garden of Eden, and there's the place called Eden.
I see.
Eden is the very center. This is what we call Mount Meru, Mount Zion, Mount Olympus. This is the core, the heart of the universe, where these Polarians I was talking about live. That is Eden. That is not where we are going. Not yet. We are going to the Garden of Eden. The garden outside Eden. The garden that encompasses Eden. That's why it's called the Garden of the Etherical Den. That is where we're going. That's this realm where the Aryans live. So we've got the occult, like I said, culture from the center. We've got Eden, etherical den. We also say occult knowledge is hidden. The den that is hid. Hid means covered, unseen,
Obscured. Yeah.
Obscured. It's hidden, right? So occult knowledge is hidden. Occult knowledge of the hidden, right? Here's another one, right? We talk about the Bible. We call the Bible the Holy Book. Again, holy, the center, right? So knowledge, the book that has knowledge of the center. Of course, the Bible is coded because we say the Bible is a testament, isn't it? Meant. Test a mind. To test your mind. It's a testament, right? So it's telling you. The spell is in the words once you break them down, all right? Now, a lot of the countries where we live have also got a lot of this stuff hidden within them. So for instance, in the Scandinavian countries particularly, we've got countries like Sweden, right? Sweden Southwest Eden. That's where Sweden comes from. You got countries like Norway, which is actually North Way.
Yep.
That's where that comes from. You've got countries like Finland. Right? Finn is what? Finnish. The Finnish land. These are the Finnish people. This is where the land of this realm finishes. Finland. You've got countries like Den, once again. Mark. A mark is a sign. Right? Sign for where the den is. When you're in Denmark, this is a sign that you're near the den. Denmark. Right? You've got countries like Greenland, which is quite obvious. Greenland, which touches, like we said, Eden, Greenland, because that's where the Aurora Borealis is. The green astral ray, Greenland. That's self-explanatory. Right? So you can see as well, in all these Scandinavian countries, they were named as codes to roughly tell us where we are in relation to this place, Eden.
Very interesting, Martin. Very, very interesting.
So I am not going to go too far into it, but I just wanted to sort of give you a rough sort of view of how important this is. I will be doing videos in the future where I'll be going into depth with our language and how far this language goes and how deep it goes and how much we can decode our reality based on our language. Very, very important. Very, very important.
And this might be a reason why they push English to be a worldwide language.
Yep.
Right. And I've read a fabulous book. It's The Secret Science of Numerology. And I'll put the link down below, where that book gets into the fact that even the words that we speak, the sounds that we make with the words are very, very important because they are frequency.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where we just take it for granted. You and I are speaking right now. We're not thinking too much about the way we're speaking or the words we're speaking or how we're speaking, I should say. But you and I are having an exchange in frequency is what we're having right now.
Absolutely.
You know? And so, yeah, I'll put the link to that book down below. And if you're interested, folks, take a look at it. She gets into numerology. She gets into, into the Kabbalah, into a whole bunch of stuff, into language. And I found it to be very, very informative. So that's my little commercial for the book.
Yeah, that's very well put, you know. So getting even deeper, you know, like you said, decoding these words to their root sound. I mean, you could even go even further, you know, and say, what does the S stand for in language? What's this S? Where does it come from?
Right.
The S is the sine wave. It's the snake. It's the frequency. So S is one of the most important letters in our alphabet, which is why there's so much symbology of snakes, of sine waves, of waves. Very, very important. So going back to all of this, it all goes back to just being symbols. Our alphabet is just symbols. And these symbols are put into different sequences that create spells, right? So when we now have a language and we have sentences, right? What is a sentence? When you sentence someone, what are you doing? Right? You're giving them a term. You are penning. That's what a sentence is. So when you create a sentence, you are sentencing someone to your spell of whatever you are saying, whatever you are spelling out. So the best way to put it is the root of all of this, like you're saying, is frequency and it's sound. So it's not the actual words that have power. It's not even the symbols that have power. It's the sound. It's the resonance of what you're saying.
Right.
So true language in its base form should just be like singing opera that has no, is it opera? Or singing or making a melody that has no actual nuances to it. Because everything is sound and frequency. And that is what root language is. One of my favorite ones is Om, right? So Om is asking for help. It's the sound for I want to connect. It's the SOS sound to the universe. We hear the Buddhists go to the temples and they chant Om, right?
Right.
And they tell you that when we're chanting Om, we're trying to connect with God, right? We're looking for answers. And when you tell a lot of people that, they might say, oh, that's just rubbish, you know, they're not connecting with anyone. It's just some ritual or whatever. And then you say to them, if I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, what sound do you make? And a lot of the time you look up, you're umming subconsciously without knowing it. Your spirit knows to do that subconsciously. You're not taught to No one's ever taught at school that when you don't know the answer, you must go We just do it naturally. So that is a good example of how sound, is one of the best examples of that. You know, so is a original sound, an original frequency of sound that we still use to this day. Unfortunately, we've lost most of them. There's a whole code of them that we could use. And if you learn to speak this original angel language, I promise you, we'd be able to do amazing things. We'd be able to rewrite or spell things into manifestation, literally.
Even when you mentioned SOS, Martin, the S is the sine wave, O is the whole, and then the sine wave again. So you have the whole in between the two sine waves.
Brilliant.
Right?
Brilliant. Brilliant. SOS, the whole bit. Excellent. And that's all it is. And that is the decoding of our language. You know, another one is the word, I'm sure you've seen this word before. Did I spell it correct now? A witch.
Yes.
W-I-T-C-H. And we're all told a witch is this evil, satanic person that casts bad spells and does magic and bad things, and witches are bad, right? We also have another word in English. Which one, right?
Right.
When you say which one, you are saying what choice. The word which implies choice. So is it a coincidence that the word we use to give someone choice sounds like the same word used to describe someone who does magic?
Yeah.
Right? So which literally just means someone who understands how to code language, right? And by doing that, they're able to cast spells in their favor. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Right.
Right? So what we're doing, this is called witchcraft, the craft of witching. This is what this is. It's the craft of witching. When you're decoding things, when people decode the Bible, Christians, right? Those Christians will be watching and saying, oh, you're talking satanic stuff. You are also witchcrafts, because a craft is a skill. And the skill of witching is the skill of decoding, of creating choice. So when you are preaching your Bible, you're practicing witchcraft, because you are spelling the words from your book. You're casting spells from your testament.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're gonna make them very happy, Martin.
Yeah, I'm sure I am. But unfortunately, the truth is never comfortable. You know, it's never, you know, people want the truth, but, you know, like they say, they're not ready for the truth. It's always a bitter pill to swallow. But that is the truth of it. You know, we're all witches and we're all wizards. We're all casting spells every day. You wake up in the morning and you say, good morning. You know, we all know this one. You know, when you're mourning what? Death. But why are we mourning in the morning? Why do we say good morning? What are we mourning? Why is it called waking up? Awake is something you do. You go to awake when someone's died, right?
Right.
It's to celebrate death.
Right.
So why is it waking up? Right? We're waking up and saying good morning. We're saying good morning at awake. So everything comes back to casting spells, which is why media, TV, right, education, books are the greatest tools for mind control.
Yes.
Mind control is another way of saying witchcraft. Exactly the same thing, right? Programs, witchcraft. When you have a program, you are putting certain spells, right, in a certain sequence to control people's minds, right? But that's now black magic. That's dark magic. So there's good witchcraft and there's bad witchcraft. Just like there's duality in everything. There's good and evil in everything. So what we're doing, truthers, we are white magicians, right? White magic, good magic. We're not doing black magic. And that's the difference. So I'm not saying that all magic is good. There is definitely dark, bad magic, but there's also a balance to that, which is good, positive magic. And all you truthers out there, keep doing your magic. Fantastic. We're changing this paradigm. All your posts and telling people of flat earth, great witchcraft.
Exactly what we're doing here.